Call to order the 15th meeting of the Board of Directors of Valley Unified Education Service Center. Roll call.
Before roll call, I just want to welcome a new VU board member. You'll notice that Mr. Lou Dugal is sitting around the table. He replaces Bev Medor, who is officially re-retired or re-doing something else. So we welcome Mr. Dugal and thank you for joining the Valley Unified team.
Thank you.
All right. Roll call. Mr. Sibley.
Here.
Ms. Rose McQuarrie.
Here.
Tom Kent.
Here.
Toby Jandro.
Here.
Josh Desjardins.
Here.
Tammy Cody.
Here.
Jake Terrio.
Here.
Gerard Castonguay.
Here.
And Lou Dugal.
Here.
Any adjustments?
I have no adjustments to the agenda.
Any public participation? All looking good.
We're good.
Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Gary, second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Whoa, hold on. There is something that needs corrected
Okay.
on minutes. Let me get to it. The budget hearing, item number 3, under C, second reading of budget. There was a motion and a second. There was a vote taken. It was 6 in favor and 3 abstained. There should be added to that the chairman, Toby Jandro, declared a brief recess whereby the 3 Fort Kent abstention members caucused in the hallway which constituted an illegal meeting. 3 members of the school board met and discussed the vote and then returned to the meeting and voted to approve it. That should be added there. Do you need a motion to add that?
I think so.
Well, we've got a motion on the table.
We have a motion on the table.
So I think we motion to withdraw them too. I think we
Yeah, I think we can adjust the motion to stay as amended.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we agreed it. I'm not okay with the legal analysis.
Okay.
Well-
We did break out, yes. I
So
agree.
Chairman
Toby,
Jandro.
Toby, you conducted a meeting in the hallway with members of the school board of SAD 27. Okay? 3 members of that board meeting together constitutes a meeting, which number 1 must be advertised, and it wasn't. So it constitutes an illegal meeting.
Perhaps we need to call the lawyer. And if you're gonna bring charges?
No,
Well, then what's the point? We broke out, there's no question we broke out. I'm not willing to concede that we violated the law.
well, I won't go that far then,
That's where you went,
okay?
twice.
I won't go that far then.
So I would
But let me
amend,
just add this. It was an insult, I think, to the other members present with what you did.
so I would add Chairman Toby Jandro call for a brief recess to caucus in the hallway for a brief meeting with 2 other board members. Is that,
Fine. I think it should be added to the minutes, that's all.
So with the addition of that piece between paragraphs 2 and 3 of new business C, as amended, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Gary, second? Gerard. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I only have a few items under Executive Director. I wish I had more information for you. For item A, Commissioner's visit, I did reach out to the Commissioner's office back on June 22nd. Got a response that the Commissioner would be willing to come meet either the week of August 17th or the week of August 24th. And I said that would be great, just send us a date. We had heard nothing back on July 2nd. I sent another nudge asking if the Commissioner had chosen, and there was still nothing. I reached out again last week on the 14th, and still nothing. So right now, we still don't have a date set by the Commissioner. I did offer that if she was very busy, which I know she is, if she would like to conduct via Zoom with us, that would be fine as well. I'm trying to just connect some way. So I still haven't heard anything. I will continue to try, and hopefully we'll have a better understanding of when she'll come. But she did confirm that those 2 weeks, one of those days she would be able to come. Hopeful that that will still happen. And that was what we decided as a think tank would be our next meeting when the Commissioner was present, so we can answer, we can have some questions answered from her. So I'll update you all via email if I find out anything sooner than later. The only other thing is a Val Unified Administrator report. Ms. Sharon Chassie did submit a report for you specific to some professional development. Sharon, I don't know if you just wanted to summarize what it says briefly.
Sure. So it was just kind of capturing what we did at the end of the school year, and that, you know, I created a website for all the professional development opportunities, and some of the information that was covered during our professional development at the end of the year is included in the pages that I have listed there with tutorials. And sitting as chair of the Restoration to Instruction Committee, our group looked at the data obtained from teachers, students, and parents regarding our remote learning experience that we had starting in March, and ways that we can improve and identifying best practices moving forward if we need to move to that model again. And so one of the things that we decided upon was that we needed standard operating procedures. And so we provided a draft documents to the elementary core values, which are expectations for learning for students in a remote learning or virtual environment. And then we have middle high school core values, and they're all related to the district core values that we've all adopted. And then teaching expectation, what are the roles that all teachers need to assume if, again, we move into remote learning. So these core values are based on respect, honesty, responsibility, engage, and invested learning. And the subcategories are technology use, communication, academics, and social and soft skills. So our plan is to continue to finalize those SOPs and have them in place before the school year begins. Follow through on recommendations and action plans identified by the leadership team, which we're meeting tomorrow. And then looking at that data, start planning for the beginning of the school year professional development on ways that we can start the school year so that we can maximize on our past experiences and move forward and try to make it as optimal as possible moving forward. So that has been the plan at the end of the school year and part of the summer. And just so you know that we will be, all teachers, one of the biggest concerns was that there were too many choices, too many options, too many places for parents to go, and it was a bit overwhelming. And so we all decided that Google Classroom will be the hub, and that we will all be using Zoom as our forum for face-to-face or virtual learning. And so we're in the process of looking for some materials to help support that. But that was a major takeaway from the surveys.
we have two policies for review. Still working with policy B section, which is the board section. The first one is a short one, would be BDA, Board Organizational Meeting. This is the template that I got from Maine School Management, and you'll see the changes that I've made. I've added that our first regular meeting is in July. We will vote for a chair, a vice chair. I did originally have secretary and treasurer. I am going to recommend that we possibly do not fill the role of secretary, just because when we started this, Lisa Bernier was the secretary who would physically take the minutes of the meeting. Since then, Lucy and Giselle have graciously taken that over. So I think rather than having one, unless one of you wants to start taking notes, I think we would be wise to strike the secretary position and just elect a chair, vice chair, and treasurer, and that way it would take care of the secretary position. Board officers will serve until the next organizational meeting. Removal would require the 7/9 vote of the whole board, and that's the only changes that I made to the boilerplate.
I think based on Tom's concerns, though, we have to address whether or not 3 board members are allowed to be on a standing committee or to serve in any of these leadership positions.
I can look.
Okay,
See if
thank you.
that's-
Is this how it is for us?
Very similar. Ours is a little bit older language, but it does say first meeting of the school year, that type of thing. I haven't cross-referenced it word for word.
The standing committee is like we volunteer.
Yep, yep. And, yeah, this one says you shall appoint. Perhaps we choose that to volunteer. The board chair shall accept volunteers.
Rather than,
Yep.
How about nominations?
Board chair shall accept
Giselle said that, by the way.
nominations, nominations for volunteers. We don't need to take any action on this tonight, it's just a first read. So if you want to go over it a little more closely, and then next meeting, we'll look to approve it. And I'll make those changes in the next version that you get. The second one is policy BEDB, board meeting agenda. Again, you can see that I've added some language. Executive director has been added, school unit has changed with education service center. And where the copies of the agenda will be posted. So it would be 5 days prior to a regular meeting, 48 hours prior to a special meeting, and then as soon as possible for an emergency meeting. Again, minimal changes there. On the second page, there's a note that I took out, and I added it to the first paragraph. Additions and adjustments to the agenda do not apply in an emergency meeting of the board because such a meeting is ordinarily called for the purpose of addressing a single matter that requires immediate action. And that's pretty much the only changes that were made to this boilerplate as well. And this was pretty uniform with what the 3 districts have in policy. 5 days posting for a regular meeting, 48 hours for a special, and then as soon as possible for an emergency.
So then this is a question I've had. It's nothing that's really been an issue, but it's always kind of seems strange to me that we can adjust the agenda once we start the meeting. So we post a meeting about X, Y, and Z, and then we can adjust the entire agenda to talk about A, B, and C.
At a majority vote.
The majority of the voted, like, that's all, I mean, we've never had an issue with it, because it's always been like, oh, we got a teacher quit, we hired somebody else, or something like that. But it just,
Yep.
it seems like it has a, like it runs kind of counter to the notice requirement,
Yep.
so.
And I think, you know, with regards to special meetings and like emergency
Yeah,
meetings, those are pretty much a no-go,
yeah.
but your regular meetings, yeah. And that's because things happen within 5 days, they don't really come up. So again, no action needed on that, just take in consideration what's there, and we'll look at it again next time.
New business.
So first item under new business is Val Unified Board Officers, Standing Committees. You have a sheet there that shows what our current school year has in place. Chairman is Toby, Vice Chair is Tom, Secretary was Lisa, and then Treasurer was Lee's. I've highlighted Lisa and Lee's because they no longer serve on the board, so those are definitely going to have to be replaced for sure. And then our standing committees, Concept Design Committee was Josh and Lisa. Lisa will need to be replaced. Policy Committee, Rose and John Coletta, that will need to be replaced, Mr. Coletta for sure. And then Finance Committee, Lee's and Tammy. I'm recommending we don't replace the secretary. But if you remember, we were very careful in the past to make sure that with the chairperson, vice chair, and treasurer, we try to represent the 3 SAUs with those positions, not put 3 members from the same SAU just because we had originally done that and it was not a good match. It didn't feel right. So I ask that we consider that when we're making the nominations for any of those positions.
I'd nominate Toby for chair.
Motion by Gary, nominate Toby for chair.
Second?
Second from Jake.
Can I throw another one in there?
What's
I
that?
nominate Rose McCoy for the
You
chair.
gotta finish one,
I think we have to.
you gotta finish one, and then you can make a motion.
This, now it's discussion for
Yeah.
Toby. The pay is really good.
Rose, are you interested?
No, I don't think I am.
Okay.
Thank you anyway, John.
Toby, are you interested?
Barely. If somebody really wanted it, I would happily give it away.
Can I nominate Tom Kemp?
We gotta finish
We
this.
gotta
I
finish,
think
we're
you
still
can.
on that. Okay, thank you.
So any further discussion? All those in favor? Against? 3 in favor, 3 against, 3 abstentions. Does that mean we build a new school? Here, I'll wait.
I guess we'll entertain a different motion. Chair,
I nominate Tom Kemp.
who nominates Tom?
I second.
Any discussion?
I think you're a nice man, Tom, but in the walkway up here, we discussed the COVID and you felt like it was something of not great concern, which I believe otherwise. And I think someone who's gonna be leading this board needs to have an understanding that the students' safety is utmost importance. So unless you think otherwise.
I do think that it's important,
Okay,
but I still have the right to voice my own opinion.
I agree.
It's still the United States of America.
And I understand that, but I think someone in this position should be, I guess, I suppose united in the outward stances whereas standing in the committee as well. So that's where I come from.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all those opposed? I'm going to abstain.
All in favor?
I'm surprised. After all that benefit.
Does that pass?
Are you speaking to somebody in particular? No?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next vote, vice chair.
I nominate Gary Sibley.
Second. Any discussion? Gary, do you want it?
I would do it.
Okay. Anybody else want to do it? No? Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Treasurer. Oh, sorry, yeah, treasurer. We need a Frenchville person ideally. French and Seneca, sorry. Josh, Gerard, Rose? Anybody?
I nominate Josh.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Do you want it?
Sorry.
We kind of skip that.
Not much of a choice now.
Yeah, 2 people said no, right?
All right, so for next meeting, we have Tom as chair, Gary as vice chair, and Josh as treasurer. Is there anybody who wishes to serve on the concept design committee with Josh? That's when we get to the concept design phase of our school construction. We wanted 2 board members on that subcommittee.
I'd really like to stay on this committee. I think it bring a lot to it, so.
Okay. I nominate Josh. Do we have to nominate?
No,
You can stay
Oh,
on.
it's a nomination, that's right.
you can stay on. Anybody have?
Anybody want to be on this committee? Is that Josh? You volunteer?
I'd do it with him.
Okay, Gary.
So, policy committee, we have Rose. Rose, would you like to stay?
Yes.
Which,
Anyone?
the policies would we dictate to the SAUs? I'm just curious.
These are the ones we looked at today. You missed the beginning of this. We started with A's, and we're moving, we're at B now, and we're gonna go what, to Z?
Yeah.
So, we're just going through basically model rules promulgated by the state, and we're taking them 1 at a time, or 2 at a time,
Yep.
and bringing them to the board and processing them through, so.
Nothing supersedes your school policies. None of these policies will dictate governing schools, because you don't have a school to govern, or governing personnel, because you don't have any personnel to govern. It's just primarily board policies and formats that they use.
So you meet all the time then, don't you? I'll join Rose.
Okay.
Okay.
After the finance committee. Tammy's already there.
Are you okay to stay on that, Tammy?
Yes.
How often do these committees meet? Have they met ever?
Gerard.
Rose and I are gonna meet every week.
Gerard, are you interested in the finance committee?
Get the whole money.
Yeah.
I'll share the money back.
Every time you have a meeting, which is never.
You're not on any of them, so I think you should.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Good.
Perfect. The last item, I need to apologize. When I was making the agenda, I shared it with the chairman. I did tell the chairman that all SAUs had discussion about the think tank discussions, and in my mind, that was, they had. Right after I sent the agenda, Josh emailed me and reminded me that the SAD 33 board had not had a formal chance to discuss the think tank. There was some conversation, but it was during another meeting for budgets, and so 33 really hasn't had a time to sit down and really think about what was shared during the think tank. So I just wanted to put that out there so that we're all aware that that board has not yet had that opportunity. That being said, I did want to update you all on questions that were asked of the think tank that I did get answers from. Just so that you have that information. One of the questions asked by the think tank, could an elected board member of one of the elementary districts also get elected to the RSU board? In other words, could a board member from MSCD 27 also run for Valley Unified RSU if there was, and serve on both boards? The answer I got to that was, please check with legal counsel. So I didn't get a good answer on that. So the DOE wasn't quite sure on that one. Second one was, does the board representation for an RSU have to abide by the one person, one vote rule? In other words, does the representation of the board have to be representative of the size of the community? And the answer was yes, and then she cited the Title 20A, Section 1472. So that's a yes, the RSU board has to abide by that one person, one vote rule. Could an RSU invite other school districts to join in, such as Eagle Lake, MSAD 10 Allagash, and Grand Isle? The answer was yes to that. And then she did cite a different law there. If the districts decide to form a pre-K to 12 RSU and virtually eliminate all the current districts, is there a way to create subcommittees that would govern the elementary schools so that the current communities do not lose control over their elementary school? The answer I got was, I believe this is allowed. However, the scope of what the school committee can do is limited by statute, and basically said you should check with legal counsel on this as well. And then the final question I asked was, if the districts decide to form a pre-K to 12 RSU and eliminate the current districts, what happens to debt and savings from each that each current SAU has? And she says that would all be part of the RSU formation agreement that's negotiated. So those are just questions that the think tank wanted asked during that meeting, and I did get some answers. I forwarded the two questions that I didn't get answers from to legal counsel, so when I get those, I'll let you know what the answer to those were.
Okay, may I have a few minutes to speak?
Sure.
Okay. Regarding the formation of an RSU to govern our 7 through 12 regional school, I wondered if there were other options. I went online to the Maine Department of Education, Maine School Structure and Governance. And they say Maine schools are organized in different ways through the state. In order to assist the process associated with proper school structure and governance, the department provides information on how to form a new school administrative unit, how to reapportion the school board, district organization, and cost sharing information. And I found under the different structures that they have, one that I really liked, and it is called a community school district. And a description of a community school district is a combination of two or more municipalities and or districts formed to build, maintain, and operate a school building or buildings to educate any or all grades. For example, a CSD may be formed to build and operate a school 7 through 12 for all towns in the CSD. Those same towns will maintain individual control over the education of their K through 6 students or belong to a school union. A community school district may also oversee education of all grades K through 12. CSD school committees are apportioned according to the one person, one vote principle. The member municipalities share the CSD costs based on a formula that factors in number of pupils in each town and or state valuation or any combination of each. Commonly, school district budgets are approved by a majority vote of voters present and voting at a district budget meeting. followed by approval of a referendum. And I think that such a structure of governance would serve our needs better than an RSU, because we, the 3 districts, could retain local control of our elementary schools, and the CSD, Community School District, would govern and control our 7 through 12 regional school. And presently, there are 9 community school districts in the state. And I think this option is worth exploring.
So I did ask that very question before we got started, Rose. I said, out of all of the list of different districts, which one would we be allowed to explore? And Paula Gravel from the Commissioner's Office said the ability to form an SAD, which is what SAD 27 is, SAD 33 is an RSU SAD. So an SAD, a CSD, what Rose just read, and a union of a town are no longer allowed under Maine statute. They've all been repealed under state statute. So she went on there to say RSU is the best fitting, and with the amendment they would do to the RSU law to allow for 7 to 12 governance, it would look more like a CSD because it's not specific to pre-K to 12. It could be the grade levels we choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
They would amend the RSU to have the governance for,
The grade levels we choose.
okay.
Okay.
But I agree with you. When I read that as well, I thought CSD sounds
Yeah.
like it's repealed under law. So they're allowing the ones that currently are to remain CSDs, but they won't let new members form CSDs.
Okay, thank you.
Did your homework, Rose?
Thanks for checking.
I did give you a copy of the latest version of the interlocal agreement. This one has the 2 last amendments that we made. One amendment was for the regional secondary school transportation and the costs associated with that transportation. That's section 9D. And then the other amendment was for, that's part 8, governing body, part 8A. We amended the governing body of this board to no longer have administrative representatives. All of you are from your board, so it does show the 2 latest amendments. I know that it was our goal last time we met in March to eventually go over concerns and questions we had with the interlocal agreement. I think every meeting that we have, we should revisit this and address any concerns that we have. I know that some of, that at least one of the boards has voiced closer look at the 7/9 vote and when that is used, and whether or not additional uses of the 7/9 vote should be added. I know we've had some discussion as well as the budget. What happens if one of the districts fails a budget, and how does that impact the Valley Unified budget at that time? So I know there's at least a couple of things that we should look to talk about, and perhaps it's a good idea for you all to go through the document and highlight such things that you want to revisit next time we have a meeting. Given that the SAD 33 board has not had ample time to discuss the think tank specific, perhaps it would be a good time to let them talk about it over before we digest about our full concerns. And that's just a suggestion to me as a courtesy to SAD 33. But I know the other 2 boards have had time, and maybe they need more time to talk a little bit more before we air out some of those discussions. Hopefully by then, we have an answer from the commissioner when she'll come up and help answer our questions. I think that would be really important that we have that opportunity as well.
Are we gonna meet again as a think tank at some point?
The idea was to meet as a think tank for the meeting with the commissioner. However, if this board feels like the think tank should meet sooner and bring more items to the table, we can do that as well. I know that this board only meets next on Monday, September 21. So there is time for this board to meet again. I definitely want to meet with the think tank at least twice between now and then, once with the commissioner and another time was targeted after the commissioner, so that we can talk about all the information that we received. That was my plan. But I'm concerned that we may not get that date and then we let a lot of time elapse.
Yeah.
Perhaps I can have Giselle to contact her office and maybe she'll have more pull.
Sure, no problem. I'll give her a call.
Okay.
It's
Do you
Georgette,
think
right?
we should have any discussions today, or should we table it? Do you think we should have discussions today or table it?
Table it.
Jake?
Table.
We need more time.
I'm open to both. It doesn't bother. I think we could discuss and bring more to the board. But I'm not open to table it as well, but we can discuss it.
Mr. Dugal?
I can table it for now.
Tabling it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we waste any time by taking 20 minutes. That's me. Because we did talk about a lot of stuff with the think tank, and I don't see how we're not making any decisions tonight. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have a discussion if the representative from French feels okay with having a discussion. And I'm just putting that out there. If you guys are uncomfortable, I don't want anybody to feel like they're being pushed, but at the same time, we're not voting on anything.
Well, one of our think tank representatives is not here this evening.
Lena.
Josh, you're on that, and Elena is as well, and she's not here, so. For that reason, I'm sure you can handle whatever was said, but maybe Elena would like more input,
And I agree with that too.
yeah.
So can I get a motion? Wanna make it, Tom?
I was gonna make a motion to think tank meet again.
Think tank meeting again. Do we need a motion?
We don't need a motion.
No, we're gonna meet again
I can
anyway.
put that in motion.
Okay.
Yeah. The question was whether or not we're gonna have any discussion today. And if there's an opposition to the discussion, I think we should vote, whoever wants to vote should vote against it. I should say we wanna table the discussion. If everyone's okay with chatting about what happened in the think tank here, let's talk about what happened in the think tank. I guess I'm looking for, I've got some mixed, I mean, tabling I think is acceptable, but at the same time, I think the sooner we draw the poison out of the wound, the better. And get this thing moving in the right direction. But if we wanna table it for another month, I'm okay with that too. You guys make the call, I'm not making a motion.
I move that we table it.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of tabling it? All opposed? All abstained?
So what I'll do is I'll reach out to think tank members tomorrow morning and set up a meeting sooner than later for us to review it. And then I'll make sure on the next SED 33 board meeting that I have that as an agenda item for that board to surely discuss. And actually, I'm just gonna leave it as a rolling agenda item on all three boards, so if something comes up, we're gonna have an opportunity to air that out every meeting that we meet.
A little out of order, but you had mentioned things in the interlocal agreement. The bonding issue, I think, is something we're gonna have to talk about. It was raised in our last SED 27.
Yeah. Bonding, voting, budget.
All right, it's a little informal, but any other discussion? Seeing none? For motion,
Move for your.
second? Tom? All those in favor? We're adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.